Good morning from America. It's from England. I don't even know where I'm. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, so that's why I don't even know where I live. But this is leafy Buckinghamshire in southern England. And I'm delighted to bring teacher, children's author Karen Hendriks with us today from, it looks sunny Australia. Early afternoon, mid-afternoon where you are?
Yes, mid-afternoon. It is around 4:10 in the
Okay,
afternoon.
okay, lovely.
Yeah. Thank you
So
for having
Oh, you're very, very welcome. No, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you being here. So we'll start at the beginning. And you teach children, and that's how you got into writing for children. Is that the case?
It is, but there's a little bit of a backstory.
Okay.
Um, I was always naturally good at English. And when I was a child, because I come from a working class background, I didn't think, I didn't know you could actually even write for, I thought it was academics or I didn't even know it was a profession.
Mhm.
And then eventually I went to university and we had to do an assessment and I had to write a short story. And I did well in writing as well at school. And the lecturer made a point of coming and finding me and he said, "You should write." He said, "I really think you should write." And he wrote it on my paper as well. And it stuck in my mind. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do that one day, but I want to be a teacher. But it stuck in here and also from school, being told I could write.
Mhm.
And then when I was a teacher, I taught kindergarten, which is I don't know if you call it prep, to year
No,
six.
we say kindergarten, yeah, or
Yeah,
primary school, but we know,
primary.
yeah, we have the
Yes,
word kindergarten here. Hmm.
yeah, we're primary. And
Mm.
with every year, I used picture books, and they were my love. And while I was at university, I was involved in a big book project. I've actually got the big book over there,
Okay.
um, retelling of an Aboriginal story as a student. And I'm on the back with the year fives, and I look like a year five student.
Oh,
And
great.
it's terribly funny when I show kids. But
Mm.
that was a positive thing from book creation too.
Mm.
And then I worked in the teacher's library with the picture books one evening while I was a student. And then I used the picture books as well at school. And I told the students one day I'm going to write. And then I got septicemia
Oh.
and I nearly died. And one of the first things that came out of my mouth was, and it was an unconscious thing, I just said, "I haven't written my books." It just came out.
Mm.
And it still took me a few years. I recovered. And then it took me a few years to build up the courage and have a bit more financial independence to actually say, I'm going to do it. And then I did it.
Really?
And yeah, I love it.
And these came about, well, they were published in COVID. Did you find that when COVID happened, you had the time then to do this, or had you planned them already?
No, I had already had them accepted. And so I'd already started writing well before COVID. And I kept waiting on them to come out. And there was delays with the one that was supposed to come out first. And eventually it came out, Feathers. Feathers was supposed to be first. But I'd been working for quite a few years, say 3 years, 4 years. And then I got the contract with a small publisher, Daisy Lane Publishing,
Mhm.
for Go Away Foxy Foxy and then Home. And it turned out Go Away Foxy Foxy came out first here. Whoops. And it's about three bunnies outwitting and outsmarting a fox by working together as a team and using their individual strengths. And it's also was shortlisted in the Rubery Book Awards, which are in your
Yes,
area.
yes,
And
yeah, no, the Rubery.
Sarah Ferguson has Red Feathers. It's won awards
Hmm.
and in Australia. And this publisher, it came out as well in COVID. This publisher's now gone broke. So the book is available through me. And then Home came out. It was on the Refugee Council of Australia's web pages, a recommended picture book, and it was on the
Gorgeous.
New South Wales Premier's reading list last year. This is also by the same publisher and very small press, but because they all came out through COVID, I have the rights back for Feathers and the print run's finished with these two. So they're all still available through me, through my webpage. And I've always wanted to write a local story. So I wrote our Shellharbour. It's in hardcover, but this is the soft cover up here. And it took me 4 years for the children here to realise how unique and special where we live is, and to celebrate our culture and what we do, and to be proud of where we come from and to unite our community, because we're stuck in between two other cities and we're often overlooked.
Right.
And it's doing wonderfully well.
So
really.
We will mention the marketing later, but presumably because it's a local book, it then helps if you go to local bookshops and have events locally with
We
that
don't
book?
have a bookshop,
Oh.
so it's all me. But there was a real need for the book, and I waited until the time was right, and also until my craft was right, and it's come out at the right time. Some of them are even going over your way.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, because a lot of you have children who've moved away, or friends, family are buying the book and sending it to them so they can say, look where I grew up,
How lovely.
and look, this is what we did, because it's very
Yes.
beach and rainforest orientated, and the illustrator's phenomenal. So
Yes, that was my next question about the illustrators. So presumably the publishers find the illustrators, or did you know them already?
Correct. The publisher for Feathers is from Long Island, near New York, Kim Fleming. You can find, she's very awarded. You can find her on Instagram. The publisher found her, and when you're published, you're not allowed to contact the illustrator or get any information. And then I absolutely adore the illustrations in home. Jennifer Sharp, my publisher, found Elisa, and she's from St. Petersburg in Russia. Wow. And this one's inspired by my family heritage. And it was shortlisted on the Rare Book Awards too. No, Feathers was, I think. No, I'm not sure. I get confused. Okay. But anyway,
Beautiful.
It's very powerful.
Isn't it? I love the unfilled in. Yeah, it's lovely. And the colour, and the dark and the colour, splashes of colour. Yeah,
done an amazing job. She's also on Instagram if people want to look at her work. Okay. And then Go Away Foxy Foxy is, I live on the east coast of Australia, and this one's all Australian. Naomi is a teacher from Perth on the west coast.
Okay, so, that's really sweet. Yeah.
Nice. And then because I self-published, I had the hard task of finding the illustrator and then getting that illustrator to accept to do your work when she's a highly awarded illustrator. It was all dependent on the quality of the writing and whether she connected with the manuscript and if I could afford to pay her.
Right, sure.
Because if you want quality, you pay. Sorry about that noise. And so Emma Stewart, luckily, she's usually booked out 2 or 3 years, had a cancellation and said she could do mine. And what really was a great booster for me was she loved my writing. She said I write beautifully, and she could see a lot of visuals for the story. So it gave me a confidence boost. So this actually self-publishing, because you have to wear so many hats, at the time when you're going through it, you cry and there's some things go wrong and it drives you crazy. You lie awake at night over a comma for days. But then if you do it and you get it right, the rewards of that book have been
Mm,
huge.
mm. I
Just
think
getting some
especially,
coming.
I
I'm
think,
reprinting.
okay, no, carry on.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that
Okay.
the reward and the recognition from that book has been huge.
Mm.
You can
I
say
think,
you're an award-winning book author, because from the others, a couple of the
mm,
others,
mhm,
but it doesn't matter to everyday people. But when they see this, and it's where
mm,
you live,
mm,
and you're going around, I've been doing book week in the local schools,
mm.
and the kids are so excited and they
Oh,
love the book, and they come up and they tell me good job, and
mm,
they just one school, the kids asked for me to come,
mm.
which I thought was super
Fantastic.
special.
Yes.
You, if you get it right, the rewards are great.
Mm. I
Personally,
remember I remember when I sold my first book, which was the first writer's block workbook, and I'd done a little sort of hour-long writing session. It was a writing group in a library in Suffolk, which is on the east coast, and this lady was the first to buy, and she sort of held this book out to me, very nervous, and said, "Would you sign my book?" And I was just as nervous. I went, "Yes, I would." And it's just since it's still a thrill, and that was 2008, 9, something like that, and
is
it was
it,
just such a thrill. And you
and
meet people.
you work out. You need to work out too where your signing place is in your book.
Yes, I learned because I'd got a filled front sheet with the title and the and all the blur and I'd spaced it out because I thought, fill the front page, and then it left me no room to write. So now there's half a page, half a blank page to put in a message and put
But
that.
I always ask, because some people don't. They like it clean,
Mm,
and then some people find it thrilling. So I always, would you like it signed? And would you like it for somebody or not?
mm,
Some people just like a signature and some
yes,
like it to someone.
to someone or to themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
are you a full-time? Do you still teach? Are you full-time
Oh, I've
writing
stopped
now?
now. Since COVID, I've stopped,
Hmm.
and I mix it around. I was very intense about it and an overthinker. And now I've said to myself, no, you should enjoy life. What are you doing worrying all the time about this writing? So I haven't
Mm,
actually written anything today. Um, I've pulled it back and I'm trying to be so much more relaxed. And what I'm doing is I set a goal beginning of the year. I had 2 stories that I really wanted to write, and one in particular, and I danced around it and danced around it for 6 years.
wow.
And then I said to myself, this, if you write no other story, you will be writing this one. And I got told it would be better as a junior novel or a middle grade, but my passion's picture book.
Mm,
And this is why it took me so long. I'm walking around
okay.
in my head trying to work out how to make it
Mhm.
fit picture book.
Right.
So I worked on it for 7 months, and I got an email the other night at the very last minute because I'm an overthinker. And I thought, I'm going to my first in-person thing in years, Squibby. Have you heard of Squibby?
I haven't, no.
It's called the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators
Okay.
organization, and it's worldwide.
Hmm.
So wherever you go in the world, most places, or
Hmm.
there is, or most big countries, even little ones, there's a Squibby organisation, and I'm in the east coast of Australia. It's that wide, and then the west coast has Squibby, and New Zealand has Squibby,
Okay.
and we're having a palooza in the State Library of New South Wales, which I've never been to. And at the very last minute, I decided I'd apply for a pitch session.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
And I was like, because I thought, no, I just want to go and enjoy and not have any pressure. But at the
Mm,
last minute, I sent in a pitch, and I got an email the other night, and I'm pitching the story I've worked on for 7 months.
right. Wow.
So now I'm like, I've got to write a pitch. Ah, how do I do
Which
that?
is a lot of writers say that the writing the book is the easy bit. It's then the writing the blurb. They've written the book. So I'm an editor, so when I edit novels, which is mostly what I do, when I edit novels, the first sweep is cataloguing everything. So it's cataloguing all the characters and locations and making sure they don't use the same letter for too many characters. Have a character table. And I also, as I'm going through, and I email it to my Kindle, which is a Kindle Fire, which has text to speech, so it reads it out as it's written, rather than how we think it is when we look on the screen. And when I'm going through it, so I'm part of me is listening to it, and part of me is checking things, and I do the chapter lengths as well, making sure that the chapters aren't too long, so no more than 2,000 words. And so when I'm going through it, I catalogue each chapter, so literally a paragraph per chapter. And then I think, well, if they haven't written of the blurb or the synopsis, then that will help them. So they've got the whole story in literally a page and a half. And also it helps me then if I want to check anything, that's if I come across a character's trait or characteristic or their age or where they were born or friends with or family of and so on, then I catalogue all of that as well. So it helps. And I think,
Oh,
but so many writers say, well, I've written it, that should be enough, I shouldn't have to work out how to
that's
promote it,
only
which
the
is
first
tricky
step.
bit.
But and a manuscript assessment is vital.
Mm,
It it takes a village to create a book, not just you.
mm,
I'm in a Squibby group online. I'm probably the most experienced in the group. The others are more beginner, but
mm,
just to have that accountability and just even if someone just says one thing
mm,
about that story and you think, oh, it makes you reassess and look at it.
mm,
And then to get an assessment is important. For what you were saying, even a picture book, I shouldn't
mm,
say even a, for a picture book, every word must count.
absolutely.
It's vital, like what you were saying, repeating words, even the length of each spread on the picture book,
Mm,
um, the story structure, the story arc. There's two types of edits, so you would know that too.
mm,
There's the structural edit, and then there's like the punctuation and all the other. There's the
mm.
story edit, and then there's the editing of the punctuation
Copy.
and
Mm,
everything. I don't
yeah,
know what you
copy
call it.
editing. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
you need both.
Mm,
And because once it's printed, you can't get a rubber and rub that bit off. So you've got to try and get it right.
yeah. Do you find though, because you've gone from traditionally published to now self-published, and you're obviously looking for traditional publishing again,
Yeah.
part of that obviously will come to marketing shortly, but um, do you find that with self-publishing it takes so much time? I know, I appreciate if you're with a small publisher, you still have to do a lot of the marketing. But do you find that you want to go back to traditional publishing so that it will free you up or to give you support? Is there a reason why you're
Yeah,
going full
love
circle?
um I love the support, and also there's a less pressure because you're a team.
Mhm.
When you self-publish, it's only you, and you also have all the financial weight.
Mm,
Like I'm fortunate I'm getting my costs back, which were huge. So the goal isn't actually to make a profit. The goal is get the cost back. And I'm doing another print run. So, but then you've got to pay for the printing and the shipping and
mhm,
starts
mm,
again.
mm.
So picture books are your most expensive book. And to make a profit, it's really hard. So I think a best-selling picture book in Australia is 3,000.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I'm nearly halfway there with our Shellharbour by myself without a
Mm,
bookshop.
mm. And how many
So, but
people how many people live in the town or how many families would you say live in your town?
I live in a village part of our city.
Hmm.
So it's only a few thousand, but our city is growing. It's 87,000 people.
Okay. So you have
But we,
potentially, let's say a tenth. So you could potentially reach 8,700 people and beat the 3,000. If it's because a lot of books are word of mouth, aren't they?
well, that's how
50.
mine's going. At the moment, I think it's very hard to sell anything, but because cost of living is so high,
Mm,
and people are even like struggling to find for the cost of food. So for them to buy a book, it's very special.
mm,
So I'm just happy that I've got my cost back, and anything else is icing on the cake because it's
mm,
very tough at the moment.
mm,
And
mm,
not just for self-publishers, it's for any publisher. I had a critique on the weekend and she loved my writing and I got a very good critique. But she, like, there's no way they can take the story on. They can only do so many.
mm.
And it was nothing to do with the writing. And she said the environment is very tough at the moment
Yeah.
and very competitive
Mm,
because once it was just publishing houses that produced books. Nobody really self-published.
no.
And now you've got this huge arm of self-publishing, traditional publishing, and then you've got hybrid publishing where it's half-half.
Mm,
And you've got like my publisher that published these, a lot of her business is actually helping, they're trade published, but she actually helps people self-publish as well.
mm,
And that keeps the business ticking, if you know what I mean, and also
yeah,
helps people published.
sure.
So it depends what your goal is as a writer.
Mm.
You might have a burning desire to just get one story out, or you might want to be like me. I just love doing it. And while I like doing it, I'll just keep doing it
Yeah.
because it calls me.
Well, we should, shouldn't we? We should love what we're doing.
We
Otherwise, and I think, they say that if you get bored with writing a book, then the readers are going to get bored reading it because the passion has to
exactly.
come through.
That
And
is
yeah,
so true. And you would feel it too reading it.
mm, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So
And
who?
keep
Yeah.
going.
No, no. I was just going to say, who once you've finished, say your first draft, do you know then, because you've written a few now, that that is the right length? I mean, with the one that took seven
Yep.
months that you thought was going to be too big, could you have made it into a series?
I could have, but I wanted it to be a standalone.
Mm,
Um, and it is the higher end of the word count for the picture book, 500 or less,
okay.
because of the type of story it is. The story will dictate too. But the preference in Australia is around 340 words, 350 words. Um, but I'm learning picture book speak. And the easy part is getting the first draft out, then the work starts
Hmm. I think
because
that's the
it's
same
just
with any book, really.
brain
I've
dump,
I
it's brain dump. And
I
then you
wrote.
go,
Sorry, I was just going
no,
to
it's
say I wrote. This is back to front, so
me.
forgive me. That one up there, the serial data up there,
Good. Good.
which was my only traditionally published book, and then I got the rights back. It did well. Well, it it did well. It's interesting because I don't read reviews, but I did for that because it was traditionally published. And the I don't know how many one stars it got, but the first one star it had were it was a lady, and she said, I don't normally leave reviews for books, but this one was so bad that I felt I had to. And
Oh,
which I read at 11 o'clock before going to bed, and I thought it was hilarious. Didn't lose a wink of sleep. But that was published in 2018, and then it then because of COVID and everything, it then didn't do well enough.
COVID
So
caused
then
much.
the publisher gave me my rights back, and so it's now traditionally published. And I wrote a follow up. Um, but that was published in 2018, and they organised a blog tour, and it ended up being one of the bloggers' favourite books of the year. So you can never really tell who's. It's Marmite or Vegemite for you. You know, some people
Was
love it, some people it's just not for somebody else. But that took a month. I wrote it for NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, one November. I think it was November 2016.
you only wrote that
And
in a month.
sorry?
You wrote that in 1 month.
Yes, 115,000 words. I was working part time and it just
Wow.
literally just gushed out. Well, I used to be a secretary, so I type really quickly, about 90 words a minute, and it literally just gushed out because I'd written a couple of crime books before that, After Jessica and Hitman Sam, and I wanted to write something light. So I have a Word document, as I'm sure everybody does, have notes somewhere of ideas. And I'd got all these weird and wonderful characters that I'd met or that I'd sort of seen on the street and thought, oh, yes, he or she would make an interesting. So I'd got all these, happened to be male, all these male characters. So I created a journalist, and I lived in Northampton at the time, which is sort of a small, it's a big town. It's not really a city, although there's a cathedral, so they applied for city status around the millennium and didn't get it. And so I created this journalist who has to go on 31 dates in 31 days and write about it. So I set it all around Northampton, and our local Waterstones wanted it, and the publisher were really good. They dropped the price of it to the distributor. But the trouble is, because you've got the publisher, then the distributor, and then Waterstones, who want 55% profit, so that they can put it in sales and so on. And my husband's just got up, so the dog's going a bit mad. And they just couldn't. The publisher couldn't drop it; they'd lose money, and so it
Yeah.
never got into Waterstones, which was a shame. And they
Oh,
wouldn't deal with me directly because I wasn't an approved supplier. But anyway, my point of this was that I wrote it in a month, but then I took a year on and off to then go back through it. So,
yeah.
a long-winded way of saying that I totally agree. The writing is and I say to my students, the writing is the easy bit. If you think this is the tough bit, you wait until everything else. You've then got to edit it, send it
Yeah.
off to beta readers, alpha reader, if you have an alpha reader, beta readers, and then an editor. When you're happy with it, send it off to an editor. And I have often had first drafts, we kind of think I haven't even, if you're convinced it's so, I wouldn't say bad, but that they haven't even read through it because there are kind of chunks missing. But that's my job. That's what I get paid for, to pull it apart and put it back, to a certain extent, put it back together again without losing the voice. I don't actually change very much. In a sort of, say, a 80,000 word novel, it may drop 1,000. I don't, unless there's something really that really needs attention. It doesn't, it's mostly fine tuning, taking out repetition and so on. So
Yeah.
who sees your book after you finish the first draft? Do you have an
Me.
alpha reader? Okay.
Oh, or I put it, occasionally I'll put it to my Squibby group. Um, but or I'll let it sit and then I go back.
Mhm.
So
That
that's
helps
it.
enormously, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
then you forget about it, especially if you move on, because I work on two things at once. So that if I get stuck with something, I'll just put more here and then switch to the other book. And then I'm lucky really because I work on novels. So there's the content there for me to just be able to do that, pick up where I left off and um, to write books of 340 words.
Oh, see, I think, wow, I wish I could do that, but I'm
Mm.
not drawn to do that. This
No.
book took 4 years,
Wow.
um, 500 words,
Mm.
but it's got back matter as well.
But
But
as you
that
say,
includes
every word counts.
every
Yeah.
word counts.
Yeah.
Um, and even like coming up with an alternative word that's better, but that is suitable to the story, because you
Mm.
don't want to just have the boy walked or whatever.
Yeah,
You
you've
want,
got
what
to
do you
have
want
how he
to
did
show
it.
the power of what they're doing?
Mm.
But sometimes for me, the writing is even just thinking about it. I thought about this one for a year in my head,
Mm.
and the one that I'm going to pitch, it's been going round and round in my head for a long, long time, because I
Mm.
didn't know how to tackle it. And for me, the dream was to write it as a picture book. And I have, and then I've worked on another one, and I'm really happy with it. It's just getting tweaked now. And then
Is
I
this
did another,
another local book?
no, they're both
Okay.
not.
Okay.
And then another one I did in between that was inspired by a true story. And I just felt like I had to write it, but I don't know if I'll do anything with it.
Mm.
Some stories you just need to get them out, but it doesn't mean they're going to go further.
No.
You've done it, and then you go, oh, I don't know if I'll work that one, and you move on. So
Mm.
I'm just tweaking this next one, and then I'm in no man's land, like,
What
till
next?
I find what next. Usually I know,
Mm. Mm.
because I had my goal with those two stories, and then I've done the third.
Mm.
Haven't really thought any more ahead.
Mm.
I'm trying to be more relaxed.
Right.
I used to do daily pages, and I got myself in a mess, and I'd have all these ideas, and then I'd throw them out because I had so much mess and I couldn't order them.
Mm.
And now I'm like, I'm just simplifying, and I may go back to what I don't know, but at the moment I'm just going with what I feel is
Mm.
next.
So
So
do you write freehand, or do you type or dictate, or how do you
I
write?
used to do freehand. Now I dump it out on the laptop. And then in between, while I'm working on it, sometimes I write it out,
Mm.
but mainly on the computer now.
Mm. And do you find, because you've written a few, do you find now that it almost comes out in paragraphs? So that might be page one, that might be page two, or do you write it sort of literally chronologically as a whole story and then decide what's going to go
No,
where?
I dump it out as a whole story,
Mm.
and then I might muck around with it a few times, and then I may paginate it, and then most of the work's done when it is paginated, but a lot of
Mm.
the early work is not paginated.
Mm.
It's just trying to get it right a bit better
Mm.
before you
Mm.
do that. But then you
Mm.
do need to paginate, because for me, I do, because page turns are very important, especially for a picture book. Where's the child going to go next?
Mm.
And you need to be able to see that in the story
Mm.
and build it.
So when you were traditionally published, did you find that you wrote your story, you were happy with it, you gave it to somebody for their feedback and then tweaked it if necessary, and then you thought that was it? When you sent it to the publisher, did they make it? Did they want any changes? Were they happy with what you'd sent them?
Really lucky. There was no changes with feathers.
Mm.
Um, and no, the minimal, maybe a word in Foxy, and I don't think there was anything really changed in home.
Mm.
I think, well, in Australia, they seem to want it to be ready to go.
Right.
They don't want to have to take on work. They're too busy.
Mm.
So unless
That makes
something
sense.
really sparks them, they want a very polished manuscript when
Mm.
they get it.
Right. No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Sort of think that if say a publisher has space for one novel and they've got two brilliant novelists, if I say writers say it's not me, but some writers say that Dan Brown and J.K. Rowling aren't actually particularly good writers, but they tell a good story, and that's the main thing. If you've got two authors, one whose writing is better than the other, but the story is better, then I think publishers will work with the author who tells the better story, because that's what readers want. I say I edit for the 100th reader because 99 readers won't notice something, or won't realize that the trajectory from a Magnum is different to a trajectory to a Smith and Wesson. Um, but one will. There'll always be one reader who will. So it's my job to polish it, and check all the facts and so on and so forth. But publishers want it to be easy for themselves.
Yeah,
If they want the book, regardless of what it is, they want the book that will make them the most money.
yeah. And I don't know if it's true, but I did hear or I read somewhere in some kidlit thing
Mm.
in America, I think, it wasn't in Australia, I think the big publishing houses, so there's 10 picture books, 8 out of 10, it might even, no, it might, I think it's in Australia, 8 out of
Mm.
10 may not sell very well. So they're relying on the 2 that sell
Yes.
well
Yes.
to carry the other 8 books.
Mm. I'm not
And
surprised. Yes.
I believe that from my
Yeah.
own experience, what I've
Mm.
seen.
Mm. Well, agents and publishers, they have their top, the cream of the crop, the Peter James and the J.K. Rowling and the Dan Browns, and the money that they make from them. And I've noticed that when you're a beginning author, you'll quite often have your name at the bottom in relatively small font, and then the title will be huge and the picture, because that's what will grab a reader, because readers don't know who
No,
the new
it's
authors are.
a story that grabs.
Yeah.
And there's celebrities are doing picture books,
Mm,
and it's very popular for them to do them.
mm,
But they're writing on their name, selling those books too,
yeah.
and that gives the publishing house money.
Yes, exactly. To then take on new talent, who then,
Yeah.
because everybody was a beginning writer at one point, and I think
Yeah.
this is why, and I'm sure with your groups, that it's I think I know I'm biased because I'm in it, but I think it's the best industry to be in, because everybody's so supportive. I compare it to learner drivers. We were all a learner driver at one point, and so if we see a learner driver, we slow down, and we keep out the way, and we let them make their mistakes. And so we it's the same with writers. If you go to a writing convention, then everybody's just lovely, top author down to us.
We're all
The
people.
Yeah, yeah, and we've all been there. We've all started from the beginning, and are still working our way to become the ones that the publishers rely on to then create new talent.
Yeah, I do. But I think J.K. Rowling is a once in a lifetime
Mm,
author. She's phenomenal.
mm,
Yeah, as a person too, I like sort of read things about her, and I think, oh,
mm.
she's really got grit and
She
smart.
is an inspiration.
Yeah,
It's unfair to say that she's not a good writer. That's really but it's in the scheme of things, it is the story that matters. If you tell a good, and from your books,
I
that
do.
is the one thing. It's got to be, in any respect, any book has got to be a page turner. If you don't care what happens to the character, then if the rabbits don't succeed against the fox, then
Yeah. Or
they
and
don't turn the page.
how are they going to do that?
Mm. And it's
And
exactly, it's the journey, isn't it? You say the saying is you put your character up a tree and throw rocks at them, and a Lord of the Ring, whether it's Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, you want them to be okay at the end of it, and it's the how. how they get to achieve their goal by the end of the story.
And I find, because I struggle with my story structure, because I'll have an idea, and I'm a pantser. Have you heard of that?
Yes, we say plotters or pantsers. I've one of the the basics of creative writing in the academy is plotting or pantsing. Yes, you get an
Yeah,
idea
and
and
I
fly by the seat of your pants.
can't plan it.
Yes.
I've just got to get it out. And
Mm,
it's a long-winded way of doing it. And then I
right.
have to build in the tension
Mm,
instead of planning the tension.
mm,
So I'm hoping I might get better at that. But
right.
it's all a journey of your
Mm,
writing journey is a journey too.
mm,
It's not a story that goes on a journey.
mm.
The writer goes on a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they should.
Yeah. And the
Mm,
publisher, everybody.
mm,
But nothing more exciting. Oh, I cried when was it? A few days ago. I've got a picture book coming out that was from a submission in 2021.
okay.
And and I got the color PDF of what it's going to be like.
Mm,
And it's called Vesper Jones and Marshmallow.
wow. Okay.
And yeah, and my new publisher's called Starfish Bay. They're a small publisher. Um, and I cried
Um,
because you don't know I've seen the black and whites, roughs,
mm, mm,
but I still had no idea. I knew the illustrations were out of the ballpark, but then to see it in color, it just
mm,
blew my mind because
popped.
I was like, this is really unique. And I wrote it and
Mm,
look how she's illustrated it because
mm,
it's a total surprise when
mm,
you see how, and the illustrator's half the picture book. And this girl has done an incredible job. I just cried. I thought,
mm,
did I really write this? And look at this. So it's coming out,
mm.
I think, August next year.
Okay.
I'm just, I'm like, oh, I hope when it's printed, it's looking as good as it was looking on the
Mm,
screen.
mm.
So exciting.
So it's
Mm.
quite a time because novels generally take about a year. I think a lot of writers will take a year to write it, or certainly to write it and edit it and get it ready
Yeah,
for submission. And then you've got the time of the submission process and acceptance and the sales and marketing team saying yes, we approve, we think it's going to sell. And then obviously it goes to the editor and the beta readers and so on and so forth, and cover design and so on and so forth. Um, so it sounds like your picture books are not that much different. So it takes a good year to
your books take even longer
right.
because with my next one coming out, they will do 6 months. They'll have a marketing plan before it comes out.
Mm,
They won't just go, oh, the book's finished, here it is.
mm,
Which is going to be interesting because with the smaller publishers, this one's small too, but a little bit bigger. It's going to be interesting how they do it.
mm,
And there'll be more lead up to the story, which I'm excited about.
mm. So
Yeah.
also because you've got self-published as well, whatever they
Mm.
do, you can do as well. And
Yeah.
also the
Yeah.
fact that you've got several books behind you, when your new book, well, every time a new book comes out, people, if they love it, and they'll go and see what else you have. So it's
Yeah.
only going to, hopefully, only going to get better as time goes on.
Yeah. And I have that one coming out, and then I've sort of got maybe two more coming out with that same publisher. So I've got my fingers crossed.
And
But
then
this
you,
one, Vesper Jones and Marshmallow. Oh,
so
yeah. And
when's
sorry,
your pitch? Yeah.
oh, when is my pitch?
Mm,
Saturday week.
okay.
And I've never been to the State Library of New South Wales.
Right.
And so I'm excited. And I'm like,
Mm,
ooh. little me will be pitching in front of those
Oh.
people. But
So is it, I
I
know you don't have a local library. Is it possible to get your books in
do
libraries?
have a local
You do?
library.
Oh,
We have
okay.
one library.
Right.
Our
Oh no,
library,
bookshops. Yes, you said you hadn't got a bookshop there.
they're
Yeah.
we have 5 libraries and branches, and
Mm,
there's a copy in each branch,
okay.
and people have been borrowing it. It's very well borrowed.
Mm.
So that's good.
Because here
And
in the UK, we have an organisation, the ALCS. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's the public library. Every time a book is borrowed,
we
the
have
author
that
gets
too.
money, and a lot of authors actually make more money that way than selling books else.
It's true.
Other methods,
It is
and it's
true.
brilliant. So everybody go to your library and borrow our
Yes.
books.
I
Absolutely.
thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good.
Yes, but
Yeah.
libraries here are seen as a very soft target. We've back in July we had a new change of government from Conservative to Labour, so it'll be interesting to. But it was announced yesterday that we're going to have a budget in October and it's going to be painful. So I'm hoping that this government doesn't target the soft, the arts, the easy targets, but we shall see. We shall see. So your books are they only available as paperbacks? You're saying you received a PD, obviously a advanced copy, the PDF. What do you think of
Um,
picture books in on Kindle and
yeah, they're
ebooks?
only available in hard copy, one in hardback or paperback. They're not on Kindle or any reading platform. I
Mm,
do think it's great, but mine is so small, and most
right.
books in Australia are not on platforms yet.
Okay.
Although have you heard of Hazel Edwards? She's written a picture
Mm.
book called "This Hippopotamus on My Roof Eating Cake,"
Sweet.
and she's very, very well renowned. And
Mm.
she writes so that her books can be performed,
Oh wow.
and they are.
Mm.
And that's one of her visions when she writes.
Mm.
Um, and Possum Magic. Have you heard of Possum Magic?
No,
Mem Pops.
I don't have children, so I don't have grandchildren,
The only is going to bring
and I'm
picture
not
books.
in the children's
And
world,
I'm the same.
unfortunately.
If
So,
you ask me about the adult writing world, I might buy
mm,
self-help books, but
mm,
I buy picture books, if you can see behind me.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what I live in. So if you
Mm,
get me talking about them, I'll go, have you seen this one? Or have
okay.
you seen that one? Adult ones, I'm like, no.
Oh, oh.
Some I
No,
do.
yeah, you should absolutely. Every writer should still read, their genre, or some
They
authors
have to
are
read your genre.
worried to read their genre in case they pick up, they think they read something and it goes into their subconscious and they accidentally plagiarize it, but it doesn't. I don't have a good enough memory for apart from anything else, but you'd have to literally copy blocks. You'd have to have a microscopic memory
Yeah.
to remember exact detail to do that because ideas aren't copyright.
If you have your writing, if you keep working on your craft, your voice comes out more.
Mm. It is.
So
It's the practice.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm.
So as long as you have your voice, it'll
Yeah.
come through. I was surprised someone said, because each book is so different that I have out. Librarian said, but I know they're yours.
Oh, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
Because
So
the
I
covers
thought,
are very different because they've had different illustrators.
yeah,
Mm.
and also there's all different sorts of picture book stories. I'm quite a
Mm.
literary picture book writer. It's harder to
Mm.
get published than a, what do you call it? Not literary, but more commercial.
Okay, yeah, commercial fiction.
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't lean that way. It's the story that calls me.
Mm.
And I'm not one in like there's a need for all of them, but I won't write like I don't write I have written fun books, but I'm not in the fart book genre or the
Mm.
if you know what I mean.
Yes, I
I have
do.
a
Yeah.
you need to
The,
know
the
where
more,
you fit in your
yeah. It's sort of almost the more
right.
serious side. Because all,
And,
even the
this
fun,
one's
mhm,
but the others are very and this one's fun, but it's still got a lot of cleverness to it. And the
mm,
others are this is inspired by my family heritage. From
mhm,
my mum was born at the end of war. She was a Sudeten German, and
mm,
they were
okay.
expelled from where they lived and had to return back to Germany, even though they hadn't been there for hundreds of years.
Wow.
And they end up coming to Australia on a ship, but it's
Mm,
about the expulsion and what happened.
mm,
It's in a children's book. So
right.
it's all hopeful. I believe if you write for children, you should always give hope and love
Mm,
and positivity for the future.
mm,
You know, you uplift and you
mm,
get children excited
mm,
about the world they live in
mm,
because and I think it's so important because the world's getting so complicated and children are getting dragged into it.
mm.
They need to be able to just be kids and escape the
Yeah,
world.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And a book is still it's their safe place.
Yes.
They can
It's
just
the
be in
escape.
there
Yes.
and
Well, I
and
say that even
worry
an
about
easy, mhm,
sorry, yeah, worrying about what's going on in the
yeah,
world.
yeah. Well, I say that even an easy life is a hard life. It's things never
Great.
go to you think you have a plan for a day and then something crops up, and yeah, it's life is yes, it's not easy.
Even today for me,
Mm,
we've got these crazy windstorms, and I had all these
mm,
jobs to do, and I got half of them done.
right.
But the tree or something's taken the power lines and the internet out.
Mm,
So I try to go to the butcher, the local grocer, the
mm,
local post office, all
mm,
shut. The
right.
local coffee shop. Yeah. Because and then I got home and I wanted to do some jobs. I couldn't do anything. You couldn't
Mm,
even boil the jug. So
mm. Well,
you
we're
just have to go.
very lucky then to have you this morning. Well, this morning, this afternoon, for you. No,
Yeah,
it's been
I'm
an
very lucky.
absolute pleasure. We'll end on your quote. You were telling me earlier on before we recorded about you put on quotes on Instagram each day.
Oh, I
That's a
do.
daily thing.
I'm Karen Hendriks, author,
Mm-hmm.
and to make myself think about my process and also about what I'm doing, I wait until something sparks me during the day and I'll post a little quote. And it's usually about writing. When it's at the moment, I'm just focusing on picture books, but it can be sometimes just anything to do with writing, whether it's character, setting, self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
confidence. At the moment, it's what picture books do for children. Whatever pops into my head and I
Mm-hmm.
share it. And I'll leave it there, and if people see it, they see it, and that's my little contribution,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to
I think
fellow writers
it's
and for myself to dump
yeah.
out. A lot of the time, they reflect what I'm working on or what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, I think I was just going to say that it was exactly what you've just touched on, that any kind of writing is therapeutic. You were saying earlier on that you've written things that you don't think will necessarily get published, but there must be, especially the home book, where it's so close to your heart,
yeah,
and the Shellharbour books,
yes.
that there is some kind of therapy. You've got them in your head. I mean, I have a terrible memory. I joke that my dad had I think it's on cassette anyway, so I wouldn't have anything to play it on, but had a a pack that was how to improve your memory, and I've got it somewhere, but I can't remember where I've put it. But it's absolutely true. And my uncle he was diagnosed just over a year ago with dementia, and some of the things he says, it's short at the moment. It's short term. So if you tell him something, he has to write it down. And some of the things he says, and my husband said exactly the same thing. We're in our 50s, and we're exactly the same. You get it's the old cliche of you going upstairs and forgetting what the hereafter. I've come upstairs, but I can't remember what I was here after. And I think it's writing is very therapeutic. It helps, and if you have an idea, if you're anything like me, get it down on paper. In my dog walking jackets, I have a pen and notebook, or two pens and a notebook, because if I think of something, oh, that's a brilliant idea, and I've got nothing to write it on, by the time I get home, especially if you go around the block and you meet people, it's gone. And I know I've come up with ideas that I love, and they've gone. And yeah, they're still in there. But whether they'll come round again or not is another matter.
It's true.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah,
nothing quite like it.
what was that great idea? I wish I
Yeah.
could remember
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But but I think writing's good for your brain health.
Mhm. It is.
I've
Especially
got
when
I've
you.
got my knee and I couldn't walk. I had to lie on the lounge for
Mm,
10 days. I was in pain, so I didn't do much writing, but
mm,
I would dip into, I do an edit
yeah.
on my story I'm still tweaking, and
Mm,
that would just keep me happy.
mhm,
And the Olympics, that kept me happy for a while with bad leg. But
mhm,
it is, you don't have time to be bored.
mhm. And there's nothing
It
quite
keeps,
like, yes, there's nothing quite like coming up with an idea and going through the process of however torturous it is. As you say, by the time you get, whether it's a PDF or the physical book in your hand, even if I would say, even if that's a terrible thing to say, but I'm a self totally at the moment. I'm going to go back full circle and get hopefully an agent or a publisher for my next book. Um, but there's nothing like opening the box and holding your baby for the
yeah,
first time.
you
It's
hope
brilliant.
that it's going to impact or help someone in some way, some
Mm,
child somewhere, or
mm,
they'll see something in it, because Feathers is to help children who've lost a mum.
right.
And that came because I had septicemia.
Okay. Yes.
And I was like, well, what happens to kids who lose their mum? Like, well, what about my kids if they lose me?
Mm,
And so I wrote the book for that reason, because it was
mm,
calling me.
mm,
Luckily, I didn't, I made it, but afterwards it impacted on me. But what about those kids whose mums don't make it, or dads, or
mm. Yeah.
something happens?
Mm,
What is there for them?
mm,
So you need to let them know that that
mm.
person's still with you.
Because I think
Because
years ago there wasn't anything like that, and I think a lot of writers have written the story because there's a void. There haven't been enough books either. I mean, some authors say they got writing because they wrote and thought, well, I could do better than that. But other
that,
writers, they wrote something because they'd gone looking for it, whether for themselves or somebody else, and it just wasn't available. So therefore, they wrote it, and that's how
yeah,
they got started.
it's true.
Yeah.
And the story calls.
Mm,
Sometimes it knocks very
right.
loudly,
Yes.
and
Well,
sometimes it gets quiet because you haven't listened and it
right.
hides again.
Mm.
But yeah,
Well, let's hope
it'll,
they keep calling for both of us.
I
So it's
hope
been an
so.
absolute
Great.
pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you, Australian Internet, for keeping going for this hour. So it's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking with you about you and your process and your books. We could keep going, but we
I
have
know
we
you
have
would.
hit the
I'm a
hour.
talker. And we're talking
Well,
about
so am I. So I say I can talk for England, but I can talk for the whole of the UK. So it's been an absolute pleasure. We will come back again to talk about your first book and then thereafter other sessions, hopefully with a live audience who can
thank
ask you
you.
questions at the time. It's been a
That would
pleasure.
be
Thank you.
wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thank